Good morning and welcome. My name is Nick Kleich, and I am the host of the Life with Nick podcast that you are about to dive into here. First off, if you know me, hello, great to reconnect with you. If you don't know me, my name is Nick Kleich. I currently live in Marion, Iowa, and I am the host of the Life with Nick podcast. This is a lifestyle podcast. And what I mean by that is it's very predicated on the guest that comes onto the show. So when I first started this podcast, it was really kind of just people who I found interesting, people who I wanted to chop it up with. We start with a gentleman who backpacked in Colorado for 2 weeks by himself. One of my good friends and buddies, Donovan, he and I talked about NASCAR and fishing. We get into bodybuilding, we get into AI and banking, we get into a lot of very, very just, I would say authentic, but really good conversations from what I call everyday heroes. And so that's really what you're going to get. And if you're listening to the show, you're obviously, looking for, me in terms of liking the show, but also for Jenna. That's who we're bringing on today. So Jenna is a pediatric occupational therapist, and boy, I tell you what, this is going to be a great show if you're hearing us for the first time. So real quick, before I get to Jenna, I just want to kind of lay this out here. So one of my goals in 2026 and in season 3 is to connect with my audience a little bit more. I just feel like with video quality and content and me being the host, I really need to take that stride. The people that have supported the show from season 1 and season 2, like, I really, really love that you're here and you've been with me through the whole journey. So thank you so much. But I really want to kind of move the needle as far as innovation, as far as connection and building a community around Life with Nick podcast, because there are so many cool people out there. And I'm so honored to come on the podcast and podcast with these folks. So if you haven't already, if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be great. That's what kind of fuels the show. Outside of that, we are on Instagram and Facebook. And so if you'd like to follow along there, you're more than welcome to do so. Let's build a really good community of people. Now, let's get to probably why you're here, and that is our interview with Jenna and I. So Jenna is such an energetic, fun, outgoing personality. She is so smart and did such a good job describing all the questions that I had for her. And this really is a wonderful, collection of perfectly designed, scripted material on allowing her to just brain dump on all the great stuff that she knows, which is so, so cool. So we start the show with really covering what is occupational therapy. And for those that may know, that might not be as entertaining, but for those that don't, what I will say is really, I would encourage you to keep an open mind. Occupational therapy is not just for kids, it's for everyone. And the way that she describes how she can help clients, I think is super, super cool. So just keep an open mind to that, right? Just listen in, let her kind of lay the foundation, and she does a great job of that. Then after that, I asked her how she came to fruition with her particular practice. And I always love asking this question because we're all on a journey, and it's just cool hearing her from, hey, I have this idea, to, she's fully operating her business now, and it's not just a part-time thing, right? And so just listening to that story, I think there's growth there. I think that she's someone that's taken it in stride and got out of her comfort zone, which I applaud her for. But the synergy with nature, I think, is what you'll find. She really lights up about that, and for obvious reasons. So she'll be able to go into further detail there. Then as a quick hitter, I talk about day-to-day tactics on what OT can teach us about life. And I think when you're thinking about this as a listener, it's, yes, we're doing this for kids, but what are the fundamental human behaviors that we can gather from these lessons, right? We're all human. We're all developing. We all have the same kind of structure, even though we're adults and not kids, but our basic needs are all the same. So that might shine some light on what are our core things that we need? And Jenna, again, touches on that. Very, very cool. Part 4 is more of a freelance part of the show where I open it up to her with some challenging questions, with some thought threads, and we just kind of go back and forth on a couple of things related to OT there. And then lastly, she does a excerpt that's kind of a bonus portion on baby wearing. And if you haven't heard about this, like me, it was really cool to learn about. Jenna is super, super educated in this, and also her potential and her growth in this particular thing was so, so good. Because you can see her like finding curiosity early on, but then taking that like 10x to where she is today. And she's educating young moms and young parents with this really, really ancient but powerful concept called baby wearing. So all that's to say, there's a little bit of the layout of the show. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get to the show. Welcome back to the Life with Nick podcast. I'm your host, Nick Kleitch, and with me today is a gal that I not only had the wonderful pleasure of attending high school with, but also college. She is I believe a mother of two, and the owner and operator of Grounded Roots OT, Miss Jenna. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, how do you pronounce your new last name? Because obviously I know you, so I'm just like, it's Jenna Hermsen. It's Jenna Hermsen, and that's not true anymore.
And I feel like people butcher this. It's close, like close, but it's with a K.
Interesting. Okay, I would have said Klaus,
Yep.
but that's me putting the A and the U in there probably.
Yep. A lot of people get it wrong. Okay. So yep, Jenna Klos.
Beautiful, beautiful. And how long have you been married, just out of curiosity?
Since 2023, so coming up on 3 years.
Wow.
This summer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, it does.
Well, as much as this podcast is not going to be about your marriage or anything personally related, we are going to be talking about a topic that you're uber passionate about, and you have done just a lot of great work. I hope people that haven't followed you on social media go and do that through this podcast. But we're going to be talking occupational therapy, and I'm not going to like pretend to be an expert in any of this, but that's why I have you here. And I just think that it's going to be really fun to explore a lot of this stuff. And really too, Jenna, like I think a lot of people should be very curious about this, because in doing my research, it seems like this has so many variations and so many cool places it can go. But mainly, like, I'm just really wanting to have you elaborate on a lot of the nuances of this industry to give people like a clear feel of like where we can really take this. And then obviously your specialty along with that too. So I'm just going to kick us off with the most easy 101 question of all. And, what is occupational therapy?
What $1 million question. I feel like a lot of people know what physical therapy is and what speech therapy is, and nobody knows what occupational therapy is, so don't feel bad on that. So let's break it down. So an occupation is any activity that a person regularly engages in their daily life. So anything that's important to them or anything that they have to do. And so this is going to look very different person to person, very different setting to setting, depending on what you work in. And so my role in working with kids, their main occupation is play. Other ones might look like self-care skills, like eating and getting dressed and hygiene and doing their daily routines, that kind of thing. Or like as a student, some of their occupations include like handwriting and paying attention and social interactions, things like that. And so sometimes there are factors that impact a person or a child's life to be able to fully participate in those occupations or activities. Okay. So we have things like physical challenges or cognitive challenges or sensory challenges, whatever the thing may be. And so as occupational therapists, we are then looking at how that's impacting their function and how it's impacting them to fully participate in those daily things. And we might do different things in order to promote that success in those activities. And so it's a very long-winded answer, but great, bottom line is we really help people do the everyday things that are important to them. And especially in pediatrics, we help kids gain the confidence and the skills and the independence in order to reach their fullest potential. And I feel like at any age, I'm a firm believer that when people of all ages are able to participate in their occupations and do what's important to them, they really thrive in their daily life.
That's so true.
Yeah. And I think a good question too with this is like, when is therapy warranted? When might it be beneficial for parents to seek out OT for their child? And obviously you have like pediatrician or other healthcare providers may be referring their child to us. But as a parent, I think it's important to know, like, if there is some sort of developmental gap with a child, or if there's something that's really impacting how they're functioning on a day-to-day basis, and that um, what they need is outside the parents' like skill set or wheelhouse,
Mm.
then it's worth it to seek out that additional support, and it's worth having someone to work alongside you and equip you and educate you as a parent in order to help your kid reach their
Yeah.
fullest potential.
And let me chime in on this too, because, we're not parents yet, me and Emily are not, but we know people
Mm-hmm.
that are. And one thing that I have found is, and it's just like an oxymoron of life because, you don't know until you get there, but there is
Yep.
no true like education to be a parent, right? There's literally no fuel
There's
manual. Like
no
there's
guidebook.
nothing. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, yeah, obviously you're absorbing things from your own parents, but to hear you say that makes me think like, it should not be intimidating in any way to bring in
No.
a professional to almost like teach you how to be a parent in some constraints. So expand
Yeah.
on that if you so choose.
Yeah, I think we as occupational therapists have specific skill sets that can help equip and educate parents, and yeah, and just teach them like, hey, here are some skills we can work on. Here's how you can do it, and incorporate that into daily life, and hopefully make it hopefully a little bit easier to manage and to work on those skills too.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome. What a
yeah,
great way to kick
yeah,
things off here. And I told you beforehand I'm going to keep you talking, so
yeah.
it's
That's fine.
it's going to be great. Now, this was a fun question for me when I was researching this because I think that this particular question is great for this type of industry. But what do people think that you do versus like what you actually do?
Mm. Hmm. Well, I think in terms of pediatrics, because again, that's my focus. I think a lot of people probably think it's like just handwriting skills or just fine motor skills or just sensory stuff, or that it might just be beneficial for kids who have a specific like diagnosis or injury or whatever it may be. And also with that, I think too, from an outsider's perspective, it probably looks like I am playing with kids all day, which like technically I suppose I am, but what it actually is really like whole child support. So I am looking at things through my OT lens, um, at so many things: how a child moves, how they coordinate both sides of their bodies, how they're regulating emotions, how they respond to
Mm,
sensory input, like everything, how they engage with their environment. And I really like zoom out and look at the whole picture. And not only am I looking at the child, but I'm also including the family, their environment, their routines, the kids' like sensory needs and relationships and all of that. And so when I'm doing an activity, I'm looking at an activity, why we're doing it, what skills it helps supports, how it fits into the child's daily life. And so essentially I am helping to like build those foundational skills so they can start to emerge like naturally and they can sustain
yeah.
them over time too. But again, if I'm doing my job right, it probably does look like I am playing with a kid because I should be also engaging them in a fun way too.
But I want to highlight there, though, like even in that short explanation, your mind was already going in 15 different
Oh
areas of
gosh.
analysis. So it's like, yeah, it may look like Jenna's just playing with a kid, but it's like, no, like there's so many cues, there are so many different
Yeah.
triggers, there's so many different things that I think that it's just cool to understand that you are absorbing all of that. But furthermore, too, like human behavior is one thing that I've really studied over the last probably 3 or 4 years. And it's so crazy. I mean, I guess this is not crazy, this concept, but to really go back through the childhood experience to know like
Yeah.
where things developed because like sometimes maybe these kids may have had an impairment, in some way, shape, or form. But I'm thinking of just like normal people's development. Like we don't you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the right skills even as a high school student to be able to like really truly understand yourself, your surroundings, your environment. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And two, I feel like with all of that, yeah, I look at the way I look at human beings is not the same as it was like before I went to school. I feel like my OT brain like never really actually shuts off. And so But yeah, human development is it's very complex. And I feel like everything just really ties in together in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. This one's another fun one too, because again, I kind of think it coincides with the industry. What do you think is most misunderstood? And I'm not going to allow you to say the same answer that you just said about you're just playing with kids.
Mm, yeah. There's a lot of misunderstandings with OT, I feel like. And again, I'm gonna hone in on the pediatric world because that is what I know. I think within the peds world, the most misunderstood thing is that we are fixing a child or that kids have to fit inside this box.
Ooh, what a good answer.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I've had to shift my mindset too with this, and what a beautiful thing that is. But like, we're not we're not trying to like mold them to be these little robots, right? Because we adults are not like that either. But and it's not like we're not trying to make them sit still. We're not trying to make them behave a certain way. We are supporting function and hopefully just like reducing some of like the friction or challenges that they have in their daily life.
Mhm.
And so with that, I feel like it's understanding like what does their body need, what does their nervous system need, what's their environment asking of them, and then also help them build the skills that actually make life run a little smoother. And so I feel like with OT, we're not just slapping a band-aid on it. We are teaching them the tools they need. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, like underlying like what's really going on here and going from there.
Yeah. Well, and I think too in our culture sometimes we're too obsessed with quick fix things like
Oh my God.
why is my
Yeah.
kid underperforming? Why is this? Why is that? So I will just share this with you here. Not that we talked a little bit beforehand, but I do like hitting lessons at DBAT here in Marion.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
what's fascinating about that, or why I bring that up, is all the parents come to me and they'll be like, "Oh, my 8-year old or my 10-year old struggling at the plate," and I'm like, let's just remember that they're 8 and 10 years old. Like that I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying, but are they having fun? Are they developing? Do they feel engaged? It is not obviously just performance based. So I just bring that up to say that it just takes time and it's okay to just have some patience
Hmm.
with that. So like, this is a little bit off the cuff, but when you're working with a child, I mean, these are things that you probably are working on for, is it weeks or months at a time? Or am I underselling that even? Like, is it
Depends.
years and years, even in some cases?
It depends on the kid. I mean, I feel like all kids have different needs, and yeah, it just is really individualized, I would say. I mean, hopefully with that parent support and parents also working on things outside of therapy too. Um, yeah, I mean, you just never know. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna be this quick fix that sometimes we want
Yeah.
in life. And with that too, I feel like sometimes our perspective on things or our systems that are in place
Mm.
aren't necessarily aligned with developmentally appropriate and like how kids should be at certain ages too. I think
That's
we
fair.
we rush childhood development a lot and we want them to just like meet these milestones super quick and we don't just like give it a second to
Yeah.
develop.
What a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't even really give it a chance before it's you're already
Yeah.
going to grade school, sit in your chair, just and I that might be outdated because I haven't been to grade
That's its own
school. Yeah,
soapbox.
I am very like I'm not astute with fourth and fifth and seventh grade right now because I haven't been,
Yeah.
but I digress. No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
This will be
Yeah.
just a real quick hitter, and I think
Hmm.
we mentioned a little bit on this just to kind of get things going, but just if you wouldn't mind for someone like even that hasn't really understood much about physical therapy. So like what is the difference maker between the two worlds there?
Yeah, and I think too, talking about speech therapy and with this would
Mm,
also be beneficial just to
perfect.
see,
Yeah.
because I feel like OT, PT, and speech therapy just gets like grouped together because we're often seen as like therapy or rehab or whatever it is. And I'm sure people think we all kind of do the same thing, but not really. And in reality, there is some overlap, and we each have like different lenses and different areas of expertise. I will say like similarities, we evaluate, we build a treatment plan if it's appropriate. We're all working with human beings across all different ages and settings. And oftentimes, too, with that, we often support the people around them, too. So, like with kids, we're working with like parents and caregivers or teachers in the school setting. Whereas, like, your more older adults, you know, you might work with the spouses or younger kids if they're older, too. And all three disciplines, I mean, we're goal based. We're always working towards a meaningful goal, but the path to get there is going to look very different. We all have additional schooling, which I think is really important that people might not understand. We all have either a master's degree or a doctorate degree. We all have to pass boards. We all have to maintain that licensure, and we all have to like keep up on continuing ed courses too. So we're always learning. But I would say the biggest thing too is that all of us are here to improve function of people and just like overall quality of life too. I would say the short answer difference that I can think of is that your physical therapists are more of your movement experts. Your speech and language pathologists are more of your communication. Sometimes swallowing also gets in there too. So communication experts, and then your OTs are more of, I think of as like a daily life expert, is how I would like in simple terms describe that. And so like getting more detailed with that, PTs now have to have a doctorate degree, so very high education that they have to have. But yeah, very much movement experts. They're very highly trained in how the body moves, how it heals, how to improve strength and mobility and endurance, that kind of thing. Where speech language pathologists usually have a master's degree, and they are using speech and language and sometimes swallowing skills. Somebody else can talk about that, but we want to improve those skills and improve the quality of life. And with those two and with OT too, there's so, like you said before, there's so many avenues that you can go into and like niche down into, that, yeah, there's so many different paths. And then with OT, so I have a master's degree, and it's required to have a master's degree, but it's starting to work towards getting a doctorate degree. So some people do have a doctorate degree. But yeah, we work with people who might have something that is impacting their daily life. And we look at that big picture and we ask, like, what does this person need or want to do, and what's getting in the way, and how can we help support them? And so some different things that we work on are, especially like with kids and actually at any age, but self-care skills, transitions, routines, motor skills, sensory processing, attention, there again, so many things. But I think at the end of the day, like, we are all working towards a bigger outcome, and that's just helping people live more fully in their everyday life. So,
well, and I applaud you for not trying to, not that you would, this is not assuming, but like discredit one for the other. And I love how you have that collective approach of like, we are really all in this together, and it's just about the general progression. Because I had my cousin on, and he's a physical therapist too, and it was really cool to research your side of the coin versus his podcast and learning from him. So I'm glad that's why I really wanted you to touch on it, because my audience has heard from a physical therapist. So now I want to bring in this like next piece too. Beautiful. Well, the last
and I feel like there's also like within the rehab field, I feel like I've worked with a lot of really good OTs obviously, but like a lot of good physical therapists and speech language pathologists. And so that collaboration piece, especially if we're all working with the same person, is huge. And yeah, there's so many great healthcare professionals out there.
I mean, in some sense, I guess I could think about it like this. Like, I work in a bank, banks work with mortgage companies and insurance companies. It's in some ways the same kind of thing. It's just a different realm, but, no, that's good. That's good. With this, just a little bit of a concluding point on the first kind of portion here. And I had just wrote this down, so feel free to comment on it in any way. But I just said, when people lose the ability to engage in meaningful activity, their identity and their confidence and their mental health, does suffer, OT helps restore that connection
Mhm.
between who you are and what you can do. And I just love that last little
I
piece
love
there.
that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
But truly though, being able to, like, because I'm assuming while maybe these kids are not fully grown, if you're working through some of this stuff, like you feel maybe behind, or you feel like your identity would be ruptured in some way because you're not maybe with other kids, or you know what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
you were just like along with the herd. You're obviously visiting with this person and working on specific things. And so being able to like restore that, I do think is really, really cool.
I would say one of the best things in working with kids is seeing their confidence build
Mm,
with their skills. Yeah,
I could only
which is so,
imagine.
so cool. And also like then getting the recap from parents, like, oh, he did this or she did that, and like it's the same as their peers, and like they, yeah, it's cool.
I can only imagine, because like with coaching, I see that on a very micro scale,
Yeah,
but with something that they've been either struggling with or really working towards, there's nothing better than that. So just
yeah.
to transition a little bit, Jenna, and first off, we're sizzling, baby. This is great. Like, I feel like this is a publishable podcast right off the bat. Like, this is
Beautiful.
wonderful. We're going to focus on you a little bit more here, but we're going to focus on just your path, maybe your purpose, maybe how this has all come to be, because in some ways it's one thing to study something, but in other ways it's a whole nother thing to actually establish yourself as a business owner, and then to spread the
Yeah,
word of
for
that so
sure.
people can work with you and actually receive all the great teachings that you have. So just to kind of kick things off, I don't know if like you like immediately had this calling that came to your heart and you're like, I'm going to go set out
Mm.
and like basically found this, or it just kind of fell in your lap a little bit. So like, how did you really establish Grounded Roots?
Um, if only it were that easy to like just fall into my lap. Nope, it took a lot of work to get there. So initially when I started Grounded Roots OT, it was completely a nature-based OT practice, and we can dive into this a little bit more later. But so I see all of my kids outside, and it's not in a clinic setting, which is very traditional. Um, and that might seem like a very foreign concept to some people because we're so used to traditional settings when it comes to therapy. But that seed was planted shortly after I graduated grad school, and I heard about other practitioners within the United States doing nature based occupational therapy. And once that seed was planted, I mean, it very much aligned with the way I view childhood development, and it also aligned with my own values too. And so the seed was planted. It took a while to like build confidence for myself as a practitioner and feel like I was in like a good spot to be able to do that.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was just a matter of like when. I always knew it was going to happen sooner or later. It was just a matter of when. And thankfully, back to the husband, we got to give him some kudos. He was very supportive, and there was a point in my life that I was like, I need to do this and I need to make it happen. And so it started as a side gig when I was still working in the school district as a school-based OT. And yeah, I mean, over the course of my career, I feel like I kept noticing kids just need movement. I mean, we all do, but like kids really need movement and space to move their bodies. And the outdoors just, it naturally supports that. And it creates this environment where they can move and explore and build the confidence and do what their bodies are created to do in this like very natural, organic way. And also at the same time, too, to start my business, I felt like I just had this pull to like do things differently. Um, I've worked in a clinic setting, I've worked
Yeah,
in
I
a
love
school
that.
setting, and I just I wanted to be my own boss, but the reason for that is to make it so like my therapy sessions are how I want it. And I wanted to work with kids and parents specifically in a way that felt more like real life and relationship driven.
Yeah.
And I wanted the freedom to be able to support families that wasn't rushed and it wasn't like boxed in a certain way. Um, and it wasn't impacted by insurance. And so actually I'm private pay. And I choose that because I feel like parents are more invested, like emotionally and mentally, within therapy realm too. And I just wanted to be able to focus my time on what matters and providing that individualized support and providing that education and those strategies that can fit into their daily life, and without families feeling like they're being just like pushed through some sort of system, or that they have limitations depending on what insurance tells them. And so, yeah, long-winded answer again, but Grounded Roots was really initially this blend of like OT, being outside, and wanting to have that family support and just helping kids thrive while also giving parents the tools to do so too.
Well, and I don't know this, but I just have a feeling that there is less resistance because of how natural nature is, which is kind of like, yeah, obviously, Nick. But to the same token, though, I mean, obviously, there are other, OTs that do operate in a traditional sense, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
they would consider them as well. But then they see that you're doing this outside and giving them a chance to move and whatnot. And I think too, this is just my personal opinion, but as we have transcended towards AI, toward technology, all this stuff, we literally have forgotten like all of our ancestors and their connection with nature. And so for you to
The
make,
basics.
yeah, like for you to bring that up,
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool. And, not, it doesn't need to be revolutionary, but it does need to be like a discipline around you helping people get back to that core of like
Yeah.
putting your feet in the grass and running around and all of this stuff. So this isn't necessarily my pod, or like it is my podcast, but not my time to like ramble on about these things. So if you have any
Yeah. No,
comments
you're
towards
right.
that, please continue.
I will say, like, I think there's absolutely a time and a place for like a clinic setting. And maybe the outdoors and like what's going on, that environment might be too overwhelming for someone. And so in that case, I think, the traditional clinic setting is absolutely beneficial. And I think there is absolutely a time and a place to get them outside. Yeah, so many benefits. And like it really is that simple. Like we just do it outside, right? I'd work on the same skills that I would in a clinic setting. We're just outside. So instead of using stairs inside, we're using a hill outside, right? Like that kind of thing. And yeah, the being outside brings so many things too, right? That we can't control. We can't control the weather. We can't control if there's wind or sun or rain or whatever it is. And I think that is also cool too, because kids have to adapt to that. And yeah, it's cool.
What a great point. Yeah. And one thing that I picked up earlier, Jenna, when you were going through OT versus PT versus speech is like the sensory element of things. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
with your thoughts on getting outside to that exact point, it's like that's now not challenging in a bad way, but stimulating their sensory
Mm-hmm.
more so than it would inside. And I feel like again, we're born from nature, and that's why we were supposed to be outside. My number one with that though is I also love the fact that they get out in the sunlight too and just breathe some fresh air,
Yeah.
because I feel like
Yep.
obviously there's a place for schooling to sit down and to study, but there's just something about just connecting with the sun and moving around and running around, and especially for young boys too. My gosh, I remember that being my biggest complaint is
Mm-hmm.
like, why can't you just let me go run outside for a little bit, burn off some energy? But
Yep.
I know you might have another like thought onto that, but I do want to add this question
Yeah.
in. So like, I want to take it one step further. And I know we just kind of talked about it a little bit, but like, what is it about either reconnecting or connecting with nature that makes it so impactful in your opinion?
I mean, there's so much research with this that I feel like it's a no-brainer, like to pair the two. But just like getting outside, like whatever that may look like, but also like getting like fully immersed in nature, I think is also, I think those are two different things. But yeah, so many physical, cognitive, emotional, mental health benefits. Really, I think the list could go on and on and on. And What I see in sessions is that nature has this way, and this is me personally too, but also with the people that I work with, it has a way of just slowing us down very naturally. And yep, like you touched on, I would say it engages the senses, all of our senses. We have more than five, which is also probably a whole nother podcast. We have like
Yes.
eight.
Holy cow.
um,
This is news to me.
yep.
Yep. Jenna
So,
part two will be
okay, let's
coming
talk about
out.
this.
Yeah. Jenna part two may be coming out later. But no, if you want to, like, this is your
Yeah,
opportunity to, might
really
as
quick,
well.
I'll
Yeah.
touch on it. Yep. So we have the main five that we all learn about, but then you also have your interoception, which is like what you feel inside your body. You have your proprioceptive sense, and that is felt in the muscles and the joints of your body. So like if you're running or lifting or jumping and you feel it in your bones, that's probably why exercise feels so good because you're working that. And then you have my favorite sense in all the world, your vestibular sense. And that those receptors are found in your inner ear. And so when you are moving your head and like driving in a car and spinning and doing all of that, you're activating that vestibular sense. And I could talk hours and hours and hours about sensory input. But when we are outside, it engages all of those senses and those main five that we all learn about too growing up. It engages it in such a healthy way, right? Kids. So like if you think about, and again, this is another point too, is that we are so sedentary. And when we're sedentary, our head doesn't move. But when we're outside and we're rolling and spinning and doing all the things, we're activating that vestibular sense. And yeah, there's
Wow.
so
The
many
head
benefits to
being
that. But
still, that I did not think about. That's such a good point though, because it's um sit and observe from a teacher. Like, yeah, you're not in any way. That's so
yeah.
fascinating.
And I mean, you think about adults as we get older, we don't activate that vestibular sense. So then we might get dizzy easier, or we don't like roller coasters as much anymore, that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's a whole topic in and of itself. But I digress. I feel like, yeah, just being outside just gives the chance for kids to just move and explore their body, like in ways that their bodies are designed to, and they like seek out that input on their own without being told, like, no, you can't do this and whatever. And so, we're made to climb, we're made to run and balance and take risks, which is a big thing too, and just let and get messy and notice things outside of our own
Yeah.
bodies too.
Really just to
Yeah, I
like
think
to
yeah,
feel, like to feel being alive,
to
if that makes sense.
feel. Yep. Um, I mean, and we're talking 2026 here. We live in a world of constant stimulation. We live in a world of constant bombardment. You have screens, you have noises, you have packed schedules, you have bright lights, constant transitions. And so like again, going back to the basics, our bodies aren't made to take in all of that information, and nature is very opposite of that, right? It gives us this like sense of peace, right? And yeah, I would agree with you too. It just gives us a chance to just be in the quiet, be in our own bodies, and reset in that very natural, healthy way. Um, yeah, yeah,
No,
it's great.
that's a beautiful answer. Yeah. And it was positioned in a way that like I did want to touch on the obvious, but I also didn't have any idea that we have eight senses. So now we have a new
Now
thing.
you
Like
know.
that's great. Um,
Yep.
so the next three questions I have, and then we'll get to another part in the show. These ones are my personal favorite in this particular in this particular section. So let's say like obviously you're going through the process of making it, you started part-time and now it's full-time. If at any point or maybe during the process, like did you ever have a singular moment, or is it just the day-to-day, like what made you fall in love with the work? Because I feel
Mm,
like everyone might have that type of experience if they are in the thing that they love to do.
yep. I really fell in love when I made it my own and truly like became my own boss. Not that I didn't love my work before, and I worked with a lot of really good people, a lot of really good kids, a lot of really good families, but I think finding my own avenue within the field of occupational therapy. I love that I've been able to make it my own. I love getting to be creative, getting to be outside, getting to incorporate baby wearing, which we'll talk about here soon, I think too. And I just have created this way personally that I get to, yeah, just make it my own and get to meet families and kids where they're at. I really emphasize that we aren't just like checking boxes, like we are going for like real life wins. I want to incorporate those tools and strategies that actually work and hopefully help the daily life just feel like a little less of a struggle. And yeah, I think everyone deserves to feel supported and be heard. And I hope that my work can reflect that too. And I feel like once I kind of figured out that avenue, then I feel like that passion like really, really came through.
Yeah, and there's no way to be fully authentic than to see someone in their environment that's just doing what they love to
Mm-hmm.
do. And the fact that the synergy of all that came together, plus obviously you've worked with enough kids now that you've probably refined like your specialties and you kind of got a
Yeah.
process down too. So but
Yeah.
just like not that you're a coach, I mean you're kind of a coach in some way, but like just from one coach to another, it's there really is like undescribable moments when a kid, you just see the light bulb come on in a kid. And
Yeah.
I think kids are unique in the fact that too, like they're so organic and raw. So they're allowing their emotions to just like run wild versus adults, you know? So I feel like there's just that extra like level of like when they do have something made progress wise, like you can just it's so free and so expressive and there's just little human that
Mm-hmm.
it's like they don't care what other people think, they don't care about like any of this other stuff. And I just feel like that's a wonderful reminder. Sometimes it's like it's all about your own
Yeah.
journey. And that was a great answer too. um
Yeah.
so I'm going to shoe this question in and then we'll ask the final question. But uh, on the note of falling in love with your work, what has been either a single child, let's say, or maybe a handful of successes or wins that you were like, oh my gosh, like
Mm.
that was awesome. And maybe if you could give a little bit on that
Hmm.
too, like you don't have to share their name or anything like that. Obviously it's confidential, but
Yeah.
like just like whatever said situation was.
Like I said, I have worked with so many great families and kids. And I think this is going to be probably opposite of what you're asking, but my big wins as an OT are not big. They are not loud. They are not like the flashy things. They are like the small, everyday wins and like the ones that like quietly and subtly like change a child's life, but also a family's like day to day life. And so, I mean, some examples like over the course of my career, those things have looked like a kid who used to be in the principal's office every day started out the year not even being in the principal's office like at all. Or a kid who can get themselves ready in the morning just using like some sort of simple system that we put in place. Or maybe it's a kid that can transition away from activities without it being a full on meltdown every time, because the parents have like really tuned into their needs. Or, I mean, my favorite things are when I get pictures of from clients that they're somehow incorporating like what we've worked on into their daily life and it's like carried over into the real life. And so to me, I mean, honestly, I can't think of like one example, but I think just for me, when I feel like I had a small part in like helping their life seem a little more manageable and a little like lighter, like to me, that's success.
So really the small wins are the big
Yeah.
wins here. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
Easily.
maybe an appropriate way to phrase it too,
Yeah.
because we are talking about development and behavior, and
Mm-hmm.
so often people think that that is just like one grand change when in reality it's just 1,000 reps over 1,000 days straight, and then finally on day 99 that's
And
when
it
it clicks.
clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the coolest thing.
Right, it
Yep.
really is. Yeah, and to change
Yep.
someone's trajectory too, I think that's like that's super, super cool and honorable. So that's just like a shout out to all the therapists out there that have had that ability to do that. And I'm sure that gives you some juice to come back to work the next day when you see those.
Yeah. Yep. Shout out to the therapist. Shout out to the families though too. I feel like when you have a kid in therapy, that's hard. Like that is like time and energy away from your home that you are putting into therapy, and then
Mm,
hopefully you are then doing things outside of that therapy session because hopefully that therapist is educating you and giving you tools to work on too. So like shout out to the families because that,
great
yeah,
point.
it's hard work. It's hard work.
Great point. But as we know in life, hard work is definitely worth it when we can invest
Hmm.
in there. So
Hmm.
one last question pertaining to part two, and this is just going to give you a chance to reflect personally, and that is,
Hmm.
what has becoming a business owner taught you about life?
So much. Oh my gosh. So many things. Um, it has taught me to step outside of my comfort zone in ways that I really didn't expect. I do not, I would not say that I have like this business background. Um, and so owning my own business has been very eye opening, and I've had to learn a lot of things that are outside of my wheelhouse, and I've had to rely on other people to help me learn those things, and I've had to educate myself to learn those things in order to grow. And it's taught me so many like personal things too. It's taught me how to take up space. It's taught me to like it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to own those mistakes. Like I'm a human being too. And I'm a human being working with other human beings. So like I feel like when I can make it more human in real life, like it's just relatable. Um, it's taught me how to trust myself and my intuition. I
I
think
like
there's
that.
very
Not that I
much,
didn't like the other ones, but I really like that.
yeah, I mean, I feel like there's very much like a parent intuition. But I also think that there's a therapist intuition too. Um, yeah, and I think figuring out how to keep showing up in this business in a way that like serves me and supports me, and that protects my time and my energy and like my own family rhythms too, is very important. This business has stretched me in so many different ways, good ways, very good ways, personally and professionally, but yeah, just different ways that I wasn't expecting. But I would say the biggest thing is that I've learned that it's okay to create a business with intention, um, and do the things that I enjoy doing, right? Because it's not everyone else's business, it's my own business. And it's okay if that business does not look like everyone else's. Again, it's not the loud and flashy, whatever, but like this is something that I really enjoy doing. And I think that's a really beautiful thing when we can spend our lives doing that, truly.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I would echo, and I'm not saying I even own a business with the podcast, but that's like kind of my thing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like I heard a definition of passion one time, and it was from Alex Hermosi, and he's just a stud business guy. But he was like,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes people equate passion to enjoyment, and he goes, no, the definition of passion is to suffer, and it's what you're suffering for that is what you're willing to
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
when I hear you,
I mean, suffer is an interesting word, but like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
like
being
suffering.
a business owner takes a lot of time and energy. And like, I'm not just working, the traditional 9 to 5, whatever. Like, I'm working in the late hours or whatever it may be. So, yeah, suffering. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Suffering,
However, you're
maybe
spending your time.
yeah, yeah, spending your time is maybe a good way to say it too,
Yeah.
but oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
I have one more quick follow-up to this,
Mhm.
and you again had phenomenal answers. Where do you find what area maybe of your life, or like as you're OTing yourself, like what was the biggest skill set, or what was the biggest quantum leap that you felt like when you just started to now? Whether that's actually operating your business, maybe a specific process that you've implemented, the tools and resources that you can provide. I'm really spitballing here, as you can tell.
Yeah. No,
But
I think, no, this is such a good question. So many things. I have learned to like figure out how to do like the back end stuff. So like for example, when I worked for other people, they did the scheduling and they did the billing and they did like all of the back end stuff. And now as a business owner, I have to do that, right? It's just me, myself, and I have to do all of that on top of being an occupational therapist too. And I have to do the marketing and all of that jazz. And thankfully with some stuff, like I've been able to reach out to other people and have their help with it, who are very wise in those departments. But yeah, it's been a big learning curve, I would say.
Well,
The therapy side of things is like the quote unquote easy side,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's what I went to school for. That's the bread and butter of what I do. But yeah, the things outside of that have been learning curve.
Yeah, that's what's been most fascinating for me. So I work over at Cedar Rapids Bank and Trust, and I'm a relationship
Yeah.
banker there. And when I get to connect with people that want to start businesses and stuff like that, it's always that, hey, I have the idea, I have the skill set, I have the vision, but it's the actual operating of the business that, can come into play. Now,
Mm-hmm.
to your credit, you've been willing to actually learn these things and grow and develop them, which obviously some people will, some people will not. But that's
Mm-hmm.
always the interesting piece about walking that own path, is like, it's just a whole nother skill set, like to operate a business versus just to be the OT in this case, or the PT or whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
thank you for touching on this stuff, Jenna. This is really
Yeah.
cool because I wanted to get a
Yeah.
chance for
All good
you
questions.
to talk on this stuff. So we are going to rotate a little bit to
Sure.
just some good quick hitters. Now, if you're listening into this, like we've talked a little bit about like the foundation, we've talked about 8, not 5 senses. And then, and then we've talked just like a little bit on how you got there. Some great lessons about and reminders about nature. So like really good stuff so far. But we're going to get real tactical here. And I think this is a chance
Mm-hmm.
for you to just flex those OT muscles and look really good. So the first one was, like, in your opinion, what are the most impactful practices that you recommend for just, I don't know, it could be a specific skill set, it could be a specific child age. Again, this is very wide open, but whatever comes to mind, feel free to share.
Yeah, I think when we're looking at kids in a whole, like overall, we overcomplicate things. Um, for whatever reason. We overbuy, we overstimulate them, we overschedule. And like to me, again, we just sometimes we just need to come back to the basics, right? We as humans, but kids especially, we need movement, we need sleep, we need water, we need good nutrition, we need outdoor time, we need connection time, and we need free play time. And for kids, when we look at free play time, especially, uh, oh, this is again, I could talk for hours about this, but when we are like scheduling these kids over scheduling them and giving them all of these rules and telling them what to do and whatever, they don't have that time to just have that natural free play to just like let their creative minds wander and that kind of thing. And with this too, I would also say that the best toys are never toys. Never actually like fully toys. I think some of the best play,
Yeah, do
free
tell.
play, creative play, comes from everyday objects. They're called loose parts in the OT world. So these are very open ended things. They don't have like a set like instructions, or like how to play with them specifically. And so kids have to use their creativity in how to play with them. So you think of things like boxes and rocks and sticks and pine cones and bowls and spoons and whatever it is. And these kinds of materials really invite kids to use their imagination in ways that toys that have a specific set of instructions don't. Um,
And real quick,
yeah.
Jenna, ironically,
Mm-hmm.
outside of obviously the bowls and spoons, but I'm pretty sure all those things come from, drum roll please,
Dun, dun, dun,
nature.
dun. Isn't that great? I mean, isn't like again, it all just ties in together. Like I don't have to like bring all of these toys and things. I bring like a backpack with me to sessions because everything that we need and could use is right there in nature, which is yeah, really, really cool. Um,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah,
I was gonna.
I could go on a ramble with all this. I just think that sometimes less is more. Um, yeah, in just the world we live in today, because I think that can spark that imagination and creativity and actually better regulation too. There's good correlation with all of that and attention. Like, yeah, there's so many things. And I
Attention
think sometimes
massive for sure. So
yeah.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate slightly, but
Hmm.
it's not like a me to you thing. It's more so like if
Sure.
I were to like you'll understand where I'm going with this. So
Yeah.
let's
Hit
say
me.
my kid though, Jenna, is they're in gymnastics, they're in baseball, they're in cheerleading, and then they're in drama. Aren't all those things really good for them to be well rounded, or are you telling me that I need to
Yeah.
take them out?
Great question. I think that as kids get older, sure. I think they will find different passions, different things that they are interested in. And I think it's great for kids to like try different things, different activities. I'm not saying like keep your kids at home, don't let them do anything, but I also think those activities are starting to get younger and younger and younger. Um, and
That's
which is fine.
that's a phenomenal
I
point,
think
by the
it's
way.
great. Yeah, I think it's great for kids to like be exposed to it and try it, but also like that's a lot of schedule. Like, and if you're doing something every day after school and then like also packing your weekends full, like look at the whole week in itself. Kids are going to school from this time to this time, and then they have practice or whatever from this time to this time. Like when are they supposed to be kids? When are they supposed to be given the free play? And so I think just being able to protect that a little bit and also saying like, we'll just stick to one thing right now or a couple of things. And then I think as they get older, they'll find what they love, what they're interested in. And yeah, I don't think I was somebody who was like go, go, go doing different sports and stuff. And I wouldn't say it was necessarily bad, but I think too, I, I wasn't doing those things when I was 4 and 5 years old, not to that capacity, not to the capacity they do it nowadays. And I think it just goes back to the whole thing of like, we are expecting kids to do things so quick and so early. Um, yeah, and I think it's also good to preserve their childhood a little bit too.
Yeah, again, a phenomenal answer. I just had to do that just because I'm sure that's
I like
a
it.
common response
Have
that
at it.
someone
Yeah.
would give. And also, too, like one other context that I'll throw out here is from my coaching as well. So I always ask the question, talking to kids, I'm like, "Oh, how was school today?" And they start like going out and going through things, and then you get to thinking they woke up, let's say potentially the same time as an adult, maybe a little bit later, but not too much later. They had to go to school, then they go to, let's say, 1 to 2 after school activities. And by the time they get home, it's like, let's say 7 or 8 o'clock. Adults struggle with that, let alone their children.
Yes.
So, like, a lot of times I think
And
parents
they have to do
forget.
homework and yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I understand the involvement is what you desire, which is great. But I'm also thinking they're doing more stuff than the adults can even manage at times.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. And they are still developing, right? Like their brain is still so precious and still developing. And yeah, we as adults with our brains are developed and we're still having a hard time
Like we're
managing all of
pounding
that.
energy drinks and shit just to get through the day, and then we're turning right around and we're
Right.
like, oh yeah, they're pretty exhausted, but they can go do one more thing. It's like, okay, they should
Yeah.
just maybe sleep,
And then
but
and then I think it also too, I mean, yeah, you could go down a rabbit hole with this. You wonder why there's attention deficits, you wonder why there's a mental health crisis, you wonder why, yeah, all of these things.
yeah.
I think it all correlates with each other.
And I that again too really makes me appreciate your stance on getting out in nature, because while if they
Yeah.
are involved with all this stuff, at least they're outside maybe doing it. Granted, during the
Right.
summertime and spring and fall for Midwesterners, but down south and on the coast, they
Yeah.
get away with that a little bit more. But again, great. Can you do me a favor just for the sake of the podcast? Can you try to recap what those were? So it was playing with loose ends, did you say, or
Yeah. Loose parts.
loose
Yep.
parts? And then what were some of the
Loose
other things,
parts.
just like the fundamentals of being outside? You can go ahead and finish that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think just keeping things simple, movement, sleep, good nutrition, water, outdoor time, connection time, and
Mm,
free play time too.
beautiful.
Which, I think when there's a balance, I think everything is great when there's a balance, right? So like being involved in things is great. I think it's great, but there also needs to be a balance of like that downtime and that free time too.
Yeah. Um, so this I'm going to ask the same question in two different ways. So
Okay.
what is a daily habit that you have either implemented with a client or see that would benefit a majority of kids in general that you think that they should do, whether that's, I don't know, like walking with
Mhm.
mom and dad after school, whether it's getting to sleep at good night, maybe it's no screens after a certain time. Anything come to mind as far as like a daily thing or just like a really good foundational piece?
Um, I think just supporting my own rhythms and like my family's rhythms too, in a way that works for us. And so that might look like no screens before bed or like we're gonna read or that kind of thing. And yeah, and obviously like we're learning what works for us, we're learning what doesn't. And so being able to get out the door by a certain time if we need to, how does that look and how do mornings look, and really just creating this, it's not like a structured like strict rigid schedule, but like there's some sort of flow to it, right? We wake up, we have breakfast, and like move throughout our day that way. And also with that, setting up our environment, this is actually probably the biggest thing that I've taken away from it, is setting up our environment to match that rhythm and to make life a little bit easier, right? I don't really care if my house is like fancy. I want it to be functional. And so, like, for example, one thing I just switched is to make my daughter's socks right by her, like her basket of shoes that are by the door. So, like, when we go to get socks and shoes on, we don't have to go to one room to get socks and shoes are in a different room, right? Like, let's make this functional and easy for us, like, put them right by each other. Um, yeah, and so I think just like figuring out what works for us is very important, and then setting up the environment to do that too. And I think because I think when the environment supports that, and things are easy to access, and we're cognizant of like everyone's needs too, because we're all human beings and we all have different needs. Everything just feels a little bit lighter, and so it feels like our daily life is working for us instead of against us a little bit too, which is like also the approach that I use with families too. Like, how can we make your life a little bit easier? How can we make your life work for you a little bit too?
Boy, and so you've never done a podcast before? Because this is sounding pretty
Oh,
good.
I could talk
Jenna.
forever.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, this girl maybe
Oh,
needs a podcast or something. Holy cow, that's awesome. No, the first thing, just from a funny standpoint, the first thing you said when you were talking about it, or when you got to environment, I literally go in my head, I go, wow, spoken like a true OT right there. Nice job. Nice
I
job.
mean, like,
No, I'm just giving you a
right.
hard
Yeah,
time,
I
but
think, yeah,
it
whatever
is,
makes your life easier. It's
yeah.
really, OT is just like some little tweaks, right? Like, how can we make your life a little bit easier by tweaking something?
But it
Yeah.
is the right thing though too, which is really fun and cool
Yeah.
all in one.
Yeah.
And then lastly here, and then we'll move on to part four. Um, so I know that being in this industry, and also just like we're both former athletes, we value fitness, we value
Yeah.
wellness, all that good stuff. Is there a habit that you personally enjoy doing that you feel like is complementary to your either your like ability to be an OT or what have you? So
Oh, yeah. What a great question. So going back to those senses, I love, so proprioceptive, the proprioceptive sense is also called the heavy work, right? I love the heavy work, right? I love strength training, but I also love like moving my body in different ways. And so I feel like for me, finding exercise that works for me, and an exercise routine that works for me. So like some days I will strength train, some days I will do like yoga or Pilates, or some days I will just like go for a walk, and like really honing in on like what my body needs has been um, very impactful. And finding movement that I enjoy has also been really great too. And I think, yeah, I mean, being an athlete, I have grown up always moving. Like I don't like to sit still that often. And yeah, just finding that good outlet, good and healthy outlet in ways that I enjoy doing, and that I'm not like feeling forced,
Yeah,
like I
for
have to do
sure.
it.
And that's one thing that I have personally, I've always loved working out. It's always a fun additive to sports, obviously. But like what I would encourage anyone listening, and I'm sure you've seen some newer concepts in your world, both personally and also for kiddos, like there are so many different things we can do nowadays and so many resources that, in my opinion, and it might come off harsh, like there is no excuse in today's world to not go and
Mm-hmm,
do something, because you can chat
mm-hmm.
GPT, you can Google, you can literally
Yeah,
design everything
literally
in like
on
15, 20
YouTube.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
YouTube.
everything.
And so I just love that you're keeping that as a focus, and I assume that you would have done that, but it's great to tailor it to your needs too, because my biggest growth probably happened when I shifted away from like sports training to like personal training for longevity. And I don't know if
Yeah,
a lot of people switch on and off on that, but that would be one thing I would throw out there is like, you're not training to sprint anymore. You're not training, all those things are positive. Like you're training for your overall health and being able
yeah,
to move and all that good stuff. So, um,
yep,
that was fantastic. Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Now we're going to go to part 4. So we're just sizzling right along here. This has been
Cool,
wonderful,
cool.
but
It has been
we're gonna
great
get a little
conversation.
juicy though. This is where I'm excited because you do know
Okay.
some of the things, but you also do not know some of the things here. So this is where
I'm always
I
learning,
know
and
this
that's
is going to
isn't
be
that
super
cool? Like
cool.
the cool thing about being a human is that we're always
Oh
learning.
man, it is. It's the best thing, and that's where although I will go on a tangent on this particular thing if you don't cut me off. So,
Yeah.
so this is going to be a like a statement, and I want you to just
Okay.
elaborate in any way that you would want to elaborate. Okay.
Okay.
So for those listening too, I want you to hear this clearly. So, kids are the mirror, adults are the unfinished work.
Mm.
So whatever
Mm-hmm.
comes to mind.
For sure. Kids are little sponges. They absorb everything that is going on around them. Literally everything. And it's not just what we're saying and what we're doing. They are observing your facial expressions, your tone, ours, our stress levels, the pace at which we move, expectations, like everything. They're picking up on everything, and they watch how we move through the world, and that's how they learn to then move through their world, right? Like it's like the blueprint and like the foundation for how they're supposed to act as a human being. And so I think when we say adults are the unfinished work, I don't think that's a negative connotation or anything. I think that we are always a work in progress. Um, yeah, I don't think that means like we're doing something wrong. We should always like be learning and growing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that ever stops. I think self-awareness is a lifelong process. Um, and I mean, with that too, pairing kids and adults, like as a parent, parenting is a beautiful thing, and it is also incredibly hard.
Mm.
And it's both. It is absolutely both at the same time. And because you are trying to raise a child and show them how to live in the world while you are also navigating your own world and your own nervous system and your own feelings and everything that's going on with you. And so that's why it's like beautiful and hard at the same time, because you're like, dang it. Like, it's a good statement. But kids are sponges, right?
Mm.
Like, yeah, I my daughter's at the age where she's like picking up on what we're saying too. And I'm like, ooh, I gotta be careful with the
Oh,
cuss words.
Emily has already slapped my wrist so many times. She's like, you're not even giving them a chance before they have heard
I'm
the S word and
trying.
the F word and all that stuff. And I'm
I'm
like,
trying.
I literally, that's just how I talk, and it's terrible. But
Yeah.
I think that's
But also
wonderful.
like,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. No, I was just gonna make a comment. I would rather my daughter hear a cuss word and also hear like me owning up to a mistake or me like sharing my feeling. Like I would also rather her if that's the worst thing I do is cuss, like to me it's not too big of a deal. But
Yeah, in
I
comparison
think
to
she'll
some
still
other
turn out
things.
okay.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. Because she'll maybe,
Yeah.
or I know my kid will for sure be a potty mouth. I just already know that it's
I know,
terrible.
darn it.
But
Uh,
my thought was when I first heard this, the kids are the mere adults are the unfinished work. To
yeah.
your point, I think it should be more positive, even if it comes off negative, because like, and this is a slight rant that I have, is like, we think that once we're done with school, that like, that's the full equipment load that we get to navigate life. And there's just so many awesome resources, so many awesome books, so many awesome podcasts and people. Like, we should always be in the development of our own journeys. And I feel
Yep.
like if kids are doing it and we're supposed to lead by example, why are we not doing it?
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, when I seen this, I
Yep.
was like, I gotta throw this by Jenna and see what her thoughts are. But yeah,
It's good.
that's perfect. Um,
I like that.
okay, so next thought thread for you here.
Okay.
Um, let's see. What or wait, hold on. Sorry. I'll edit this part
It's
out. I need to
okay.
regather myself. Thanks, OT. Thank you for being patient with me.
It's all right.
So let's see here. Okay. So what has working with kids taught us about how humans are wired
Mm.
and why so many adults are dysregulated?
Oh,
And again, you
this
can take
is
this in any way that you want, but that was one more time.
we
So
could talk about this for a long time. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So what has working with kids taught us about how humans are wired and why so many adults are dysregulated?
Hmm. Well, working with kids has taught me to like bring it back to the basics. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this too, of like humans are wired to move. We are wired to feel. We are wired to rest. We are wired to seek connection and like, yeah, just like be able to express discomfort if something doesn't feel right. And oh, I feel like somewhere along the way, I don't know, but we learn to like suppress some of that. We learn to like push through, to be quiet and still, to ignore what our bodies are telling us. We shove emotions under the rug. We stay
So good.
busy. We distract ourselves. We like power through this exhaustion. We scroll instead of like actually resting. And yeah, I mean, same thing with kids. We fill our schedules instead of listening to our bodies and slowing down. So instead of like learning how to pause and learning to how to be in our own bodies and regulate and feel our feelings, we just like shove them to the side and like override them. And the beautiful thing about kids is that they don't really, for the most part, have that ability to do that yet. And so if they are feeling a certain way or like feeling tired or hungry or overwhelmed or overstimulated, like it will show in its own way. And when I feel like when that happens too, yeah, this is its own soapbox, but like when that happens, then it activates like the parent's stress response too, because it like brings some of that like unfinished work back to the surface. But
Yeah.
I feel like when we're talking about, I feel like this is a two-part question of like why are adults so dysregulated, is that we are not in tune with our own self and our own needs. And again, like what are the eight senses? Like, what are our own sensory needs and our own sensory preferences? And like, what do we need and want to like function throughout the day? And again, it's going to look different person to person, but like, I think overall, we're not getting enough movement. We're not getting enough good rest. We're getting a lot of screen time. But like we're also like not getting enough quiet time and outside time and connection,
100%.
like true connection
Right.
time. Um, and just like not enough slowing down. I think we're getting better about slowing down too, but yeah, I think there's just this like pressure from social media and society and whatever it is that yeah, there's a lot of unmet needs there.
Yeah, I loved this one as well, just because obviously, like, understanding how we're wired is one thing, and I think most people have very poor self awareness, which is not their fault. Again, like they've never been
Hmm.
taught self awareness, but also
Right.
like the dysregulated nature of us, which you're like probably hearing us this for the first time, and you're like, "Are we dysregulated?" But if you go speak to anybody that is
Yeah.
not from here, like case in point, I was conversing with someone this past weekend, that is from the country of Jordan. And this gentleman
Okay.
is in pursuit of like becoming a doctor, which is very admirable. But I was just like, hey man, like, what's the biggest adjustment you had to make? Like, just really, truly just curious. And he goes,
Yeah.
what you guys think is normal in the United States,
Oh my
everybody
gosh.
else looks at as like you guys truly are on this like path or track to nowhere. And it's all like driven on status and stuff like that, which in some ways like serves a purpose of innovation, which is great. But in most ways, it's really self destructive. And he was like,
Yeah.
here's an example like this kid. So my brother in law turned 30, and he was like, back in Jordan, if someone has any type of life event, like after work, like work is just something we do with our time. It's like after work, we just gather and we sit around the fire and we
Um,
talk, and like, so it's really truly a US kind of like parameter set. Now, I'm sure that we have it better than a lot of people. So maybe this is why we feel like we
yeah.
have to ride the roller coaster. But it's just a very funny perspective that our kind of default is this intense just race to nowhere, maybe, or
Yeah.
somewhere. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Race to nowhere is right. That's a really good point. And I feel like I'm sure if you talk to people from other countries too, yeah, we just live in this like fast paced, intense world. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Well, and I also have some coworkers that are from Benin, Africa, and they're like, it's
Mm.
just so funny because they're like, from in Africa, we would not do this. We would get to work when we want to get to work, and then we would leave when we want to leave. And I was just
Oh,
like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. But you'd have to know the person. That's
yeah.
why I mimicked them. So
Yeah.
if they listen to this, they
Yeah.
wouldn't be offended if I said it like that. um, okay, so I have. Let's see here. I have one more thought provoking thread, and then I have just some good old fashioned, like good core OT stuff to kind of hammer on, and then
Okay.
we'll get to baby wearing, and then we'll get out of here. But we're,
Cool.
we're rolling at a good clip.
Yeah.
So this one's going to be interesting too, Jenna. So what do adults label as bad behavior when really it's an unmet need?
Mm. Well, everything. Uh, Sometimes kids have behaviors that get labeled as bad when really they are trying to communicate something. And they just maybe don't know how to do that. And so it's going to look like they might not be listening to you if they're actually like overwhelmed or overstimulated, but they can't tell you that. They might have a tantrum if they're on nervous system overload, or maybe there's extra clinginess if they are seeking out like safety and connection, or like again back to like the boys hyperactivity thing, right? Like you might have hyperactivity if there is a need for movement, or I mean even when you look at yeah just how kids function, you might have a lack of attention if there's not enough movement. And so I think when we shift it to like oh he's acting out, he's behaving bad, when we shift it to like what's this telling me, then things start to change, and it helps us move like from just reacting to the behavior to actually like supporting the need underneath it. And I think that is a very hard skill to learn too, of like not only like how can we help support it, but like also digging down and being like what are they trying to communicate to.
Wow,
Yeah, everything.
that was the answer that I didn't know I would get, but I love that. So let me just take it
What were
one.
you thinking?
I don't know. I was thinking maybe it was going to be like more along the lines of kind of what we were commenting on earlier. Like, yeah, of course they're going to act out when they're trapped in a school for 8 hours a day, you know?
Yeah,
But I like
yeah,
the depth that you answered with. And so let me just couple one more thing. So as you had mentioned that it's important for parents then to more so be curious rather than to assume is kind of what I'm hearing a little bit of as well.
yeah, yep, absolutely.
Um, well, that was really good. I like that. I like that. Um,
I get a lot of like we get a lot of not a lot of, but like we've gotten behavior referrals in OT, which is like very interesting to me because like there are behavioral therapists, there are like people who have specific skill sets with as far as behavior goes, and so when a parent brings their kids to OT and it's like behavior, like I really start to dive deeper of like what are their sensory needs like, what's their environment like, what are their routines, and just like digging in deeper to what's going on too.
yeah, and just
So
asking
behavior
them.
is like maybe a referral that we get, but it's like what are we really looking at here?
Yeah. And that's where you're just able to dive in on that and get a better understanding of like, hey, it's
Yeah.
really just this other thing because they're not getting a chance to be comfortable in their environment or whatever, you know.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
okay, so last thing here, and in some ways we've touched on this, but I want to ask it in a way that allows you to cover anything that you wouldn't have already shared. So this just
Okay.
basically is like an excerpt, and again, I didn't share this with you because I wanted you to just kind of react naturally. So it
Okay.
essentially says play is not optional, it's foundational. Play is
Mm-hmm.
actually serious work for kids because when they don't
Mm-hmm.
get play, they suppress themselves and they don't necessarily like come out of their shell.
Mm-hmm.
Based on this kind of thought that you just heard this, what would you say to that? Like, do you see that if they don't get it, do they shut down, or is it more so that they just need to re-engage with their confidence to be able to know that it's okay to do certain things? And I guess that's kind of a tough one to answer because I'm sure some behaviors like we need to let them express it versus other behavior. It's like, we got to kind of like steer away from that. So again, I don't want to speak
Mm-hmm.
on this like I know anything. That's why I'm going to try to give it over to you so you can
Um,
guide me.
okay. So repeat the line you said.
Yeah. So basically, is play is not optional; it's foundational. That
Mm-hmm.
is why
Yeah.
play is actual serious work for kids.
Yeah.
When they don't get this, they suppress what they really feel, essentially.
Yeah. Um, Going back to the very beginning, play is the main occupation for
Mm,
kids. Um, and they sometimes don't get the time and the space to just, and I think there's different like avenues of play that we could talk about.
mm,
Um, a lot of kids don't go to school and just play, right? They have to like sit and listen, and maybe they get like a hot second at recess or something to have free play. But like, I think with that statement, I think it's so important that kids have free, unstructured play because they don't get that enough. And that is where boredom kicks in. And boredom often leads to some really beautiful things with their imagination.
mm.
Um,
Man, what a good answer.
and I just, to me, and I also think like that's anybody that like not just kids, like we all don't have free play and like our free play is going to look a lot like the hobbies that we have. But in this very digital world, we all don't have the free play that we're used to having. And so kids specifically in the digital world, they are not having the free play to build the foundational skills. And so that is why there's kind of this like uptick in needing extra support because, and again, this is its own soapbox, but like if they're not engaging in these free play activities and like moving the muscles of their hands and moving the muscles of their body, then you might see a developmental delay because they are not getting those same reps and exercises like that we used to do when we were kids. Um, yeah. Yeah, that's its own like soapbox, but
Yeah,
kids need free play.
that is what another answer that I didn't know I was going to get, but I thought that was really, really solid because um, this is very silly, but I'll share it just as a point of vulnerability. Like, there are some times that I'm just going through my routine week by week, and if I'm feeling a little bit
Hmm.
down or feeling like a little depressed or whatever, like normal human shit, I will
Hmm.
force myself to either sing or dance in the morning. And
Interesting.
I
I
do,
love
yeah,
that.
and I do that because it just kind of gets me out of my head, which is where often all of our problems reside anyway.
Yeah.
But it's
Yep.
just like to this reminder, like right when you said play is like their number one occupation, like gosh, we just take life way too serious. Like what
Hmm.
happened to just being able to mess around and have fun? And I'm not gonna
Hmm.
sit here and say like I'm a good singer or a good dancer, but like I'm doing this in the privacy of my
But
home
you're
where no
having
one
fun.
can.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say it doesn't
so
matter.
I'm just
Doesn't matter.
yeah, I'm trying to loosen up the reins a little bit. So
Yep.
I think this is like a probably a very slept on thing. And then I'm assuming, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe a pet
Mhm.
peeve of yours is like the whole just give them a tablet syndrome. Like there, you know what I'm saying? So
Oh,
if you want to rant, you can. I don't mean to provoke you, but I'm sure that in your world that's got to be like, what are we doing?
yeah. Yes. Mm.
We'll just leave it at that, or do you want to?
I I mean, I think it it can be beneficial. Um, no, I'm just kidding. It really can't. Like I just to me, kids like you're looking at a lot of kids in schools have iPads, and it's like kids learn when they are very hands-on. And I get that it's like this quick fix and it's easy and whatever, but like there is nothing that grinds my gears more than like tablets and iPads and kids having access to their parents' phones or kids having phones in general. And I also think that it's a good reflection for us as adults too, um, because I have to catch myself like if I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, like, am I whipping out my phone? Right? Like, how are we solving our boredom too? And so if they are seeing, again, they're sponges, right? They see what we are doing. And so if that's how we are navigating boredom and stress and whatever, like that's how they're going to learn to do that.
Yes.
And I will say it's hard to be a parent and like have your kids, I don't know, act a certain way at a restaurant or out in public or whatever it is, but like they're kids, they're learning. And I feel like the easy way is to just hand them a device. If, yeah, it's probably one of my top three pet peeves is seeing like iPads and tablets at restaurants or whatever. Um, but I also think too, as adults, we also need to check ourselves, me included.
Oh, I
I
was just literally
very much
gonna
need to, yeah,
say like
right? Like we're always, yeah.
I even get in
I don't think it's
trouble.
about being perfect.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just yeah, we also need to work on that too and check ourselves. I think it as adults it is great because it gives us some easy access to things, but it's also like an endless distraction and it's right at our fingertips. And they have very much taken over our lives. And we just use them to like cope with stress and boredom and overwhelm. And I also feel too, and this is I say like related back to childhood development is when we are pulled when we adults are pulled out of a moment with kids because of our phone, kids feel that. And
Mm,
even the
wow.
small moments of being pulled out of that disconnection can add up over time. And so I think I will always say, like, I think the best toys are never toys, but I think the best thing that you can give your kid is full, undivided attention. Um, and that's not using your phones. But I think,
That's dropping the
yeah, and
bar
even
right
just
there.
like
That's really
yeah,
good.
just like even just like small pockets of like true full on presence where your phone is not even near you can make a huge difference too. Um, but yeah, I also think adults we also need to get back into doing hobbies and being creative and moving our bodies and yeah, being outside and being able to like sit and talk and have a conversation without a phone and just, yeah, have those different outlets too, which, yeah, surprisingly, a phone is not regulating. So,
Well, and what a beautiful full circle moment for our podcast that we started with children, but are also ending with
right.
adults needing the exact same variables.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
we have just like covered so many good things, and I was just taking some
Yeah.
notes like throughout the podcast, and I just feel like this is going to be something that really helps people that would have no lens into some of the nuances of these things. And this is why I love podcasting, because you
Yeah.
can listen to it and that's great. But when someone you know, or like you're obviously speaking from your experience and maybe some kids you've helped experience and their parents and all that good stuff, like it's just a wonderful reminder of like what the potential is. And we really have to all fight to get away from what social media wants, and that is our attention. And so, like,
Hmm.
if it feels
They're very
taboo,
smart.
oh, so
Those
smart.
little tech companies, the big tech companies, they're smart. And I've actually listened to some people talk about how like the people at those tech companies don't give their own children devices and stuff. Like what they are working on getting out of human beings, they don't give to their own children because they know, they get it, they understand it. Um,
That's not a good sign,
so
but
it
also
seems kind of
it's
icky, but
ironic,
yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
well, this part in the podcast has been like we could easily conclude here, and I just
Oh
want to
yeah.
say thank
Yeah.
you so much. Like this has been
Yeah.
exceptional thus far, and this is why I wanted to have you on, is to talk about not only your passions, but just like this is just really good information. So I'm excited to share this.
Hmm.
Now we're gonna make a little bit of a larger transition now, and
Yeah.
there has been a newfound maybe love,
Hmm.
curiosity, passion towards baby wearing. And so
Yeah.
in this like back half here, I really want you to guide the way, and like I'm going to kind of ask some good questions as
Sure.
far as like letting you talk on this. But the place where I want to start with this is a, where did you see it first, and then B, how taboo of an idea did it feel to really kind of like, as you're seeing it, like, is this, oh, Del, we should have been doing this whole time, or like, what the hell is that?
Okay, so vulnerable moment. I feel like being growing up in small town Iowa and just like maybe Midwest in and of itself, um, wasn't exposed to maybe all of the things that we could have been exposed to. So like I don't remember anybody baby wearing when I was like growing up. I and maybe it's like the red truck theory of like it doesn't stand out to you because you don't know about it. Um, when I became a mom and like when I was making that fun little baby registry, which I laugh about now, like what moms actually need. I had put on a couple baby carriers, and one of them is a stretchy wrap. And now, and again, I laugh about it now because I know way more now. But when I was a new mom, I had about three brain cells because I wasn't sleeping and I was, bringing this beautiful baby into the world. And I had no idea how to navigate this stretchy wrap. And I watched YouTube tutorials and like, I just like didn't have the brain capacity for it. So we just didn't use it. I think we tried it out a couple times and we're just intimidated by it. And then when my daughter was probably like 3, 4 months old, we started using, it's called a buckle carrier, a little bit more, and really opened my eyes of like, wait a minute, like why does this little contraption type of thing help her, help me? Like, yeah. And so I dug into it a little bit more, and here we are. Now I'm certified in baby
Yeah,
wearing.
your curiosity led quite down a path,
So
which is
curious. Always,
amazing.
always.
Um, well, I love that because
Okay.
oftentimes people see something, right, and they may be curious and they don't pursue it, or maybe it's just a
Yeah.
fad where it's like, a couple months I'll do this, and then it's on to the next thing. So when does it evolve from, okay, there's something here, to like, I'm really gonna like dig into this?
Hmm. Okay. So I noticed that it was great for her because she had a witching hour, which a lot of babies do. They call it the witching hour. Just like at a certain time of night, where she just got a little bit cranky. And when we put her in the carrier and she was close to us, and we were also able to like do other things too. It was beneficial for both of us. And so I was like, what is actually going on here? And so
Yeah.
I deep dive into what is it? What's the research? How can I improve my own skills on this? And then come to find out there's an actual full on certification for it. There's a wonderful OT that I follow on social media too, who incorporates baby wearing and occupational therapy. And I was like, bing, bang, boom, there we go. And I love, there's just a lot of overlap with it all. And now my clientele with baby wearing looks a little bit different too. But I also think as a new mom and just trying to figure everything out, everything gets overwhelming. There's 8 bajillion things that you could do, use, have for a kid. Um, and I wanted to find a way to make it not so overwhelming for other parents too.
Simplifying it is such a gift. And
Yeah.
what I do want to go into now, and this is just my own curiosity of driving this, but I really want to get into, and if you have done this, I assume you would have, like the science of it. Like I really want to
Yeah.
know that part, because I think in some ways, like I'm a male, so I'm not going to maybe understand this and
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it as much as a female would. But I do love science, and I think science tells a story in some way, shape, or form. So as you're digging deep, like what is the either the science saying, or like how would you simplify the explanation of what the science is saying for the purpose of this?
Yeah. So in doing this, I think it's important to understand like what is baby wearing, right? Because like I think as a society is like baby wearing is just like using a baby carrier and like throwing your baby in a baby carrier. And it's way more complex than that. So baby wearing is the art and the practice. And I say it's a practice because it does take practice to be able to like find the right fit and maybe find the right carrier that is that works for you and your body. But it's the art and practice of bringing your baby close to you, and then you just use a carrier or a wrap as that supportive tool to like hold that hold it in place, right? And so your baby is held securely and safely and comfortably. um, but beyond that, it is such a great tool. It's a tool in the toolbox. It's not the only thing you should do, but a really great tool to build connection and regulation with your babies. And baby wearing, this is something that I love learning. Baby wearing goes back so far in history. You look at other cultures who literally baby wear and bring their babies everywhere. They carry their babies everywhere, and those babies are doing everything that those moms, typically caregivers, are doing, but also not just moms, people within their village. So yeah, it's a very like historical thing. I think is so cool. The culture behind all that. I think um, we in the United States have a very like modernized way of baby wearing, but if you look at other cultures and how they baby wear, they have these like beautiful wraps and like different ways that they do it. But science with it is that babies, it goes back to those like basic human things. Babies want to be held, they want to be close to someone, and baby wearing just helps support that. And it also allows caregivers to do the things that they need to do, hello occupations, um, throughout their day. And so yeah, it gives babies that support of feeling close to their humans, while also helping the caregivers do the things that they need to do too.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I think that you bring up a phenomenal point of the United States culture, again, doing it in its own way versus like what's the rest of the world doing. I remember
Yeah.
one time there was an African client that came in, and
Mm.
she was doing it, and the baby was on the backside of her body.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I didn't see it at first, and not that this was a big deal in any way, shape, or form, but I was like, that's just interesting to me because she seems so comfortable. That's the thing I really observed. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, like she's really just chilling with this thing there. And the whole time, like kid's not crying. It's kind of just dazing in and out and it's just hanging around. And I was like, that's interesting. But I was like, I got to bring this up to Jenna because I know we're going to talk about this.
Yeah,
But part of
that's cool.
me, like from a scientific perspective, like just the heart to heart, I feel like would be like not like a frequency thing, but like calming.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you as a
Hmm.
mom,
On
you're
both ends.
yeah. I was gonna
On both
yeah, I was
ends.
want to get into
Hmm.
that too. So like because someone had told me that had a kid that was like they can feel like how your state is, and that's something that I've thought about a
Hmm.
lot. And so anyway, long explanation and whatnot to say
Yeah.
like what is like is so it's basically for both parties to remain kind of in balance with one another in
Hmm.
some sense.
Yep.
Are there any other
Yep.
things though that come to mind? Like I'm just kind of curious on the
I
science.
mean, it's great for bonding. It's great for regulation. Um, it's also great for babies to get their movement in. So again, they are one with the caregiver. So they are getting any movement that that caregiver is doing. So whether they're moving, twisting, bending, whatever. So they're getting some of that sensory input too. Um, but I think the biggest thing is like the emotional regulation piece of just like being close to a caregiver, which seems like such a simple concept, but this is another rabbit hole. We, as a society, have tended to want babies to be very independent from a very early age. And so we set them down in containers and expect them to just like stay there and like not need us.
Wow,
And
that's okay.
my mind,
Sorry to cut you
very
off,
deep.
but no, I
No,
love
my
this.
mindset has shifted a lot with it.
Yeah, this is great. Feel free to
And
elaborate here because I
mhm,
think that a lot of people need to hear this because I'm like excited right now because I was like, I
yeah,
didn't even think about that from that perspective.
yeah. So when we think about all of the pieces of equipment that babies could use, there's a lot. And yeah, I think it's just we almost like I hate to like even say these words. Like we almost see like babies as an inconvenience to our daily life, and so that's why we use them. And don't get me wrong, I think that they're if you need to take a shower and you need to set your baby down in something, by all means do it. But like I think sometimes we just like overutilize them, and then again, this is how it ties back into OT is that when those babies are in containers, it can impact their development because they are not getting the free play on the floor. And baby wearing is very different from a container because they are so close to the caregiver and they are getting the caregiver's like movements and sensory input too. And so when again, it's all about balance. When baby wearing is paired with like a lot of free floor play, I think is really where it's beneficial for babies. But yeah, it's a soapbox that I think I could go on and on about of how we containerize kids and yeah, just expect them to be independent, sleep through the night, be somehow able to regulate themselves at a few months old. It has been a shift in my mindset after becoming a mom, after learning so many things, after diving into like more of like the very nurturing side of parenting. And yeah, yeah, just really honed in on it.
So, where do you think that you personally have made the
Mm.
biggest stride with either like creating awareness on this, getting more into the data on this? Like, where did you go from like again, we're gonna just do this, and then now we're to the point where we're really promoting it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Um, I feel like I saw a gap in, well, I feel like with my like people and the people that I know, like it's not something that's commonly talked about. So I feel like there was this gap in accessibility, like knowing what it is, having access to a carrier or to have that knowledge and that high quality education. And I mean, I remember feeling very overwhelmed as a new mom and like trying to figure out on my own. And I didn't want other parents to feel that way. And like, I feel like that season after having a baby is so precious, but it can also feel very vulnerable and isolating. And I wanted parents to feel that support and confident within that like small little time frame of a season. Um, and yeah, I didn't want them to second guess themselves or struggle like I did. Like I like have flashbacks like thinking about us trying to figure out the stretchy wrap and like also yeah, it's just I didn't want parents to do that. Yeah, and so I feel like in getting certified, because technically I wouldn't have to like I don't have to have a certification, right? Like I could just like talk about it, but the certification was life changing for me. But I feel like now I can offer families that education piece, that reassurance piece, that very individualized support, and really help baby wearing just feel less intimidating and more empowering. And yeah, just really, yeah,
And
yeah,
was
build
that
their confidence.
the needle mover in terms of the certificate or the certification, excuse me, because just hearing when you say life changing, I want to dive just a little bit on that as well.
Mm. Um, well, chose to get certified because I think there was this gap missing. Like something just felt like it was missing, right? Like I know child development, I know baby wearing in some like small aspect, but like I wanted to know more about it. Um wanted to know more and I wanted other people to like learn more about it too because I felt like once I figured out how beneficial it was for me and for my child, like it was a game changer for us as far as parenting goes. Like we were able to get outside easier, we were able to do things easier. Trips to the grocery store were easier, like just like things like that. And so I wanted parents to like open up their eyes and be like, hey, there's this thing that isn't a container like that's not hindering your child's development, but also like has so many great benefits to it too. And yeah, and I didn't know like truly what I was signing up for within the certification until I was in it. And I'm like, wow, this actually like taught me way more than I thought it ever would. I actually probably didn't have any expectations. I just like figured, I don't know, I was going to do it and get certified. And I really didn't have any expectations of like what I was actually going to learn. But part of it was like the culture and the historical piece too, which was, yeah, I think very beneficial.
And then one last piece on this before we get rounded out here. This is like totally selfish of me wanting to know, but like what and where did it originate? Like what is the historical perspective on baby
Oh
wearing?
gosh,
Like I'm okay, let me rephrase because
ages ago.
yeah, I was just gonna say like millennia, like I'm sure like any parent, like let's say you're out in nature, you probably are going to baby wear just because it's there. But like, did it say like if it was this particular country, or did they say if it was
Oh, I'm sure.
particular?
Yeah, I'm sure there is a specific spot, but I feel like it was just like something they did, especially back in the day.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was probably this like gap period of maybe when our parents, not everybody, but maybe like when our parents were having kids of like not baby wearing.
Mm,
And you can look at just how generations are maybe. But now I feel like we're kind of getting back to maybe more of that nurturing
yeah.
side of things. And so it's kind of like coming back into the light a little bit too. Um, yeah, I'd have to look back at
I
any
didn't know
specific.
if I'd catch
I'm
you
sure
doing
there is a
like, oh,
specific
it
spot.
originated in ancient China
I should
and
know. I should
BC
know.
450, you know? No, I'm just
Oh
messing, but
yeah,
I do love history. That's why I ask. But um,
yeah,
this has been just so beneficial and awesome. And so let's do this. This is how we're going to round this out on a really strong note.
okay,
So first and foremost, how can people find you for the OT stuff? Like, is it just simply going to your website? Is it following you on
yeah,
social? I just want to give you an
sure.
opportunity to share those things for people that might be interested.
Yeah. I'm actually in the process of revamping my website, thanks to another West Delaware alum too, which is also very cool. But yes, groundedrootsot.com is my website. Just know that I am in the works with it if it's like super close to this podcast. Social media is also great. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Haven't dove into any of the other ones yet. Um, but yeah, I feel like I get so many questions about baby wearing a lot specifically because that's kind of what I've been posting a lot about and sharing a lot about. But I am always happy to answer any OT questions, baby wearing questions, whatever it is. If anybody shoots me a message, but also know like that is what I do. That's what I am trained to do and certified to do. And so, yeah, that is also my what I offer to people too.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to give you that spotlight to be able to offer like obviously your services and whatnot. But in terms of the baby wearing, is there anything like product wise that you would recommend? Like, do you have that? Like, I'm also asking this a bit
Nope.
blind because I haven't been on your website, which is bad on me. But like,
No,
I
that's
want to
okay.
give you a chance too. Like, if you have things that you want to promote or things that you think are
Sure.
good or yeah, you know.
Yeah. So misconception about baby wearing, I think, is that there is this like one size fits all with baby carriers, and that like what works for one person is going to work for the next. And you will see on the internet people like sponsored having like certain brands that they suggest, and I just say like take that with a grain of salt because baby carriers are different. And baby wearing is not a one size fits all thing. Our bodies are all very different. Our babies' bodies and needs are very different. Our needs change depending on like what season of life we're in, what stage of child we have, whether you should front wear or wear a kid on your back, that kind of thing. And so I think that's why individualized support matters so much and that I would recommend it to literally any parent. I think baby wearing is something that can be very life changing as a parent. But I also understand, and I've been there, like that it can be intimidating and there are things that make you feel like you don't want to do it. And so, yeah, I think there's actually quite a few certified baby wearing educators out there, and just reach out to them or me, have at it, and to help you make those small changes, and yeah, and help you feel more confident too. um, with baby wearing, there's a whole spectrum of people that I work with. I work with people before they have a baby and trying to help them figure out what carrier works best for them. um, I work with parents who maybe just had a baby and they're trying to like double check or learn how to use a stretchy wrap or whatever it is. Um, or there's people that I work with who this is maybe like kid number three and they're like, I want something different. I didn't like the comfort and the fit of what we used to have and we got rid of it.
That's a
And
good
now I
point
want something
too.
else. And yeah,
Like I
yeah.
hadn't
I
thought
mean,
about that
things
either.
change.
Is like kid to kid. Yeah, maybe we've done two kids this way, and maybe this would be a new thing to try for kid number three.
Yep. Yep. So I offer like a full-on consultation with baby wearing, and we'll talk through like your goals and what you expect with baby wearing and figuring out just like troubleshooting fit and comfort and exploring different carrier options that way. So I don't recommend like right off the bat, I'm not going to recommend a like a specific brand. There are a bajillion baby carrier brands out there, and very much some are better than others. Some quality are better than others. Some ways that they fit with babies and human bodies are better than others. And so it is really individualized on like what kind of baby carriers. There's not just one. There's multiple. There's a handful at least. And so when I went through my certification, I learned about the different types of baby carriers. I don't learn necessarily like brands of baby carriers. But I am learning as I go. And sometimes people have carriers that I haven't come across yet. And yeah, it happens because there's so many out there. So anyway, so I do a baby wearing consultation, where it's kind of more of like a deep dive into it. And with that, it's more just like kind of education pieces. And then typically I do this before they have a baby, typically, but it doesn't have to be. And so I can make those recommendations. I usually give within this, I give my favorite brands, and the good quality brands that I would recommend. But with that, that also includes a month of follow-up support, like after they've had a baby. And honestly, if anybody reaches out at any time, I'm more than happy to answer questions. Because once they start using it in real life with a real baby, it can be very different too. But I also offer just like regular fit checks is what I call them. So these are if somebody already has a baby carrier and just wants to make sure that they're doing it safely or that the comfort and fit is right for them. It's a little bit shorter of a session and it's just usually a one-time thing. So
Well, and
that's what I offer for Babywearing.
Yeah, I love that so much. And what I'm like already mentally comprehending is like it's just so much more than what meets the eye. Like there are just so many nuances within that. And as with anything in life, if you just meet with a professional and you meet with someone that can give you these tips and tricks and whatnot, that truly can make a difference. And I think that's where, as I have gone through my own personal journey, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's a financial professional, whether it's, what have you, just a little bit or a moderate amount of gaining knowledge from that said person can truly make a difference. So I also want to just give like a proud shout out to you for going down this path and being, available for people to do this. Cause not only is it a passion of yours, but I'm sure it is making a difference in people's lives, which is incredible.
Hope so.
No, I'm sure that is the case.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is.
All right. So we are at the concluding point here, Jenna. Thank you so much for coming on and doing the show. There's going to be so much good wealth of information that's going to be shared here. I do have one final question that's completely unrelated to everything that we've talked about, and it's unscripted, but it's a great question, and I love asking it to people. Sometimes I ask it when we're not recording, but I feel like we're in such a good spot that this will be a good one for you to just kind of share a final lesson. So I always envision this as a cool way to just understand like progress in life and how far we've come. And I also ask this question because we've known each other for quite some time. And that is, what advice would you give to like the 15-year-old version of Jenna as you would have this conversation with her? And again, you can run with this in any way, shape, or form, but I love this question for 1.5 million reasons, but I just am curious to hear what your take is on talking to 15-year-old Jenna and what advice you'd give her.
This is a really good question. I got a 15-year-old me. Oh, that poor girl. I think that it's okay to make mistakes. First of all, it's okay to make mistakes because everybody does it and we are all human.
Right.
And just the impact of, I think I've known this along the way, but I have been like very hesitant with different things throughout it, but like just the impact of like truly getting out of your comfort zone and like learning new things and meeting new people and making connections. And like, you really have no idea, like the trajectory of like one life decision, how that can impact the rest of your entire life. Right. Like, I think it's the comfort zone thing, right? Like the comfort zone is just that, it's comfort, but it doesn't help you grow.
What a great answer. Yeah. And I will say, and this is by no means a knock on Manchester, Iowa. We're both from there, but we weren't as prompted in some ways to explore so much more than what the surrounding community is. And even in Cedar Rapids, and so I just, I think that's a great answer for somebody that has grown up in a similar environment. We could have a whole new podcast on that, but
there is so much to this world.
Yes. I had to ask you that just to get your 2 cents.
That's a good question.
Thank you so much again, Jenna. And to the listeners, I hope you had a great time and really took away a lot of good information on the Life with Nick podcast. You know the drill. I will be in touch to post this out, but to all the fans listening, until next time.